Oh, I think one of the it's called sternal breathing. It's very simple and straightforward, and it's quite impactful. Um, I've adapted it from a woman named Rena Kornblum, one of my dance therapy colleagues. And to make a long story short, I'm just going to give the context. I was working with a group of children when I first started playing with this. So there's always the moment I decided to play with it. I had about 20 children in a kids group. The shared experience was war, different countries, different languages. We had interpreters. It was a movement therapy group. And there would be times where some of them would get activated and be really like hyper aroused, vigilant. Some of them would shut down. And this was one of those moments. And I was like, oh man, what do I do? Right? And I said to everybody, hey, everybody, let's just take a pause. Let's just sit down for a minute or stand. I gave them a choice of what posture, shape they were in. And we did this practice called sternal breathing. And what I've learned about it, and I've used it many more times, and I used it with my mom when she was dying and having panic attacks. I use it with myself. I use it on airplanes when it's turbulent, because I don't like that. It tends to help regulate us in a direction that's helpful. So here's the practice. So the first thing I like to do, and this is a neuroceptive practice, is invite everyone just to, for a moment, just notice how physically comfortable you are. Just notice your physical comfort. We can be quite conditioned in any, we call it classroom setting, even a Zoom interview that you might be watching while you're sitting in the bathtub, whatever, how we show up. So are you really physically comfortable right now? And what adjustments can you make to increase that? If there are any adjustments you can make. So exactly. We might need to roll shoulders, take a breath, uncross a leg. We might need to add a cushion, take a layer off, turn a fan on, drink water. Internal and external possibilities for how we can increase comfort. So we just refined our autonomic nervous system because we brought the state of our body into our conscious awareness. We took a moment to pay attention. One of my clients called this a micro empowerment because she said it for a moment, even if I can only do it for a moment, I feel more comfortable, more physically comfortable. And I know I'm here and I know I'm present. So we're actually supporting our neuroceptive capacities. Now I'm going to invite you to notice your breath, and we're going to take what I call a baseline, which is very simply a beginning point, a beginning moment. I started doing baselines because sometimes people didn't want to do the practices. They thought it was a little weird. If you take a baseline and then you do the same thing at the end of the practice, you can see if there's been a change. So the baseline is of your breath. And just notice how you're breathing. Notice how you notice this constant exchange with the universe, right? The inhale, the exhale, we're constantly exchanging. The plant nation, the ocean nation, or just your breath. Is it a movement? Is it a sound? Is it a sensation? Is it a rhythm in a particular place in your body? And be very practical about it as well. Fast or slow. And notice the relative comparative length of the inhale and exhale. In a balanced breath, they're kind of similar, never exact, but kind of. We can have a pattern in our breathing that's a really long inhale, which is sympathetic. I'm going back to that part of the nervous system that energizes. The exhale is parasympathetic, that calms, releases. But what's your balance today? And how does it feel? Does it feel okay? And then here's the practice. Place your hand on your sternum, the bone right above your breast area. I like to call it the heart's shield. And just notice as you breathe if you feel movement in your sternum. It's kind of a mini baseline. Just notice that. Sometimes our sternum may not move. The muscles might be really tight, the tissue that it's nested in, and that's okay. There's never a demand for change in these practices. We notice what's there, or you might notice some movement, and the movement might have multiple dimensions. And what I'm interested in now is, can you feel your sternum rise into your hand on the inhale? And can you feel it drop back down on the exhale? It kind of rests back into our body. Again, if that's not happening for you, that's okay. In body justice, we trust the wisdom of our body, the timing of it. It's just not what it's doing right now. But if you can feel that movement, and even if you can't, this is a practice we do no matter what we feel, but this is the movement. This is a primary movement of breath in the body. The practice is this. Start to press your sternum on the exhale. On the inhale, you release that press and just let your hand ride your sternum. On the exhale, you're pressing it. Don't press too hard. Sometimes, especially when I was working with those kids, they think it was funny to push really hard, make funny sounds. It is funny and it can be playful. I like to say 5 to 15% of your strength. It's kind of like the light attention in the contemplative practices, right? When we watch our exhale, you're just gently 5 to 15%, maybe 20% of your strength. In that range, what works for you? At any time, if this doesn't feel comfortable, if you don't like it, if it brings stuff up, you can let it go. If you want to keep going, you can keep going. There's no recipe for a certain number of exhales that we press our sternum on. I like to say just keep doing it until you feel like you're done. And sometimes people want to pause and rest and integrate. We integrate new neural pathways and therefore new wisdom when we rest, not when we're doing the thing, the movement. So you just notice, do you keep pressing or pushing with the same pressure? The 5% range is connective tissue, which is what contains us, but also what connects us. It's a big web of neural connection. If you get in the 10% range, you're going to be more in your voluntary muscles, the red muscles, the action muscles, sympathetic nervous system. Right, that's how we move. 15 to 20%, you might get down into your bones. And all of these have different effects. The pressure will determine whether this energizes you or calms you down. And then whenever you're ready, you can let that go and just come back to noticing your breath. Compare it to the baseline, the relative comparative length of the inhale and the exhale. Are you breathing deeper or shallower, longer or shorter? Has anything shifted? Breath is the most efficient nervous system regulator. It is movement. I notice that I'm actually breathing. It feels bigger, wider, and deeper, and then I'm moving more with my inhales. Right? This is the basis of all movement is our breath. So no demand for change. If nothing changed, trust your body's wisdom. Sometimes change feels a little icky. We wish we didn't know that, but it could be useful information, and sometimes it feels helpful. So that's the practice. Sternal breathing, very simple. Hopefully the additional information was helpful. I like to weave the practice in.
Thank you. Yeah, no,